everyone. So this is Adventures Live. I don't know if you've been watching. This is our fourth episode. So if you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Anyway, so today we're talking about whether people can find love online or if it's all just cyber sex. And I have Nana Darkoa, of course, who you all know with me. And then we have a wonderful guest, Ronke, who's a PR consultant from London, who's Nigerian. She's a fellow adventure sister, and we're very thrilled to have her. So, hi, everyone.
Welcome, Ronke. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to be a guest in today's episode. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited. This is an exciting conversation.
Well, we hope so. We hope it's exciting. Last week we were talking about childbirth, and that was kind of exciting. So I hope this measures up. But it's
okay
because we were talking about childbirth last week, and we're basically talking about how African women sort of navigate the societal expectations around childbirth. And of all the stuff we said, surprisingly, one thing just jumped out at me. And Nana, it was you mentioning that you had started following these natural birthing handles on Instagram. So you started thinking about having a kid. And I was so fascinated by that information because some of these people can be really crunchy. You know, they're like the people who eat the placenta and everything. And it just makes me think about how these online spaces sort of bring together people who would ordinarily probably never talk or never meet each other. And then it made me think about how African women sort of use these online resources. Like quite often we have these communities that we form with people who we don't really know in society, like adventures, you know? We have African Mami and Neka and all of those people, and we're like a community, even though we don't physically know each other. Why do you think, you know, these spaces have become so important for African women?
I mean, for me, the online space has been critical. I've made friendships online. I have dated people I have met online. I have had professional relationships with people that are online. And I think it's because you're actually somehow able to identify people with whom you have similar interests and a similar politics online through what they say, through their tweets, through the links they share. You know, it's the same way in which you can be so disappointed in your faves because they say things online and you're like, oh my God, I should have never followed you on Twitter. But for me, this is why the online space has been really important, especially when we have an African diaspora that's so widespread, right? People are just all over the world, just because of the realities of the world we live in, and just because of the realities of geography. And so there's so many people that I initially connected with offline, and then we actually took the steps to meet in person, and they're my, in a sense, in real life friends. Nice. But there are also lots of people I have never met. You mentioned the adventures community. Nena Marcia, I have never met, but I can share with her over email so many intimate things about my life. Yeah. You know, she writes to me and ask how things are going, and I can just be like, oh my God, XYZ is going on. And I've never met her, but I have a strong, you know, connection with her. And for me, that connection is really real. It's as real as some of my, you know, physical connections with people.
No, I think that's really interesting. I think that's really interesting.
That resonates. Yeah, definitely. That definitely resonates with me. I think I've met and connected with so many amazing, phenomenal people across the internet. It sounds scary, actually, when I say it like that. Social media, to be more specific. And I think what you said about shared interests, social media just makes it easier to kind of cut out the BS, and you can get straight to what do you like, you know, especially when it comes to politics and you know social views. You can just get it doesn't take long to get an idea of whether you'll get along. And I find it so interesting because I often joke, and then I don't take offense because you're one of my Facebook faves, but Facebook is for the people I've known for years, who I've met them, they're family friends who I've met physically, and you keep in touch on Facebook. But ironically, I find I connect better, or I've got more people who I'm more interested in from Twitter and Instagram. And I find that the people I meet on Twitter have got they're more open-minded and interesting than the people, unfortunately, who, I don't want to offend anyone who might be watching, but unfortunately, the Facebook buddies who I find sometimes stay kind of closed. And those are the people who you know from real life, you know, who you know from growing up. So it's really interesting.
That is very cool. That is actually really interesting. It's weird because do you think, so I know so many stories about women who get harassed on Twitter and Black women who get people coming up them sideways just because of the stuff they say on Twitter. And it just makes me think, like, do you think that the internet is sort of a place to form community and it's just this, you know, almost a source of liberation for some African women? Or, you know, is it kind of just a cesspool, like just the most, like the worst of the worst, bringing out the basest of human behavior and human desires?
That's a really good question. I would say social media gives people the guts to amplify the real part of them that they probably wouldn't be able to show in a bar or in a club or in the office or in the boardroom. But I genuinely believe if you have an understanding of your social awareness and understanding of yourself, if you're secure in yourself, you'll be able to cut out the nonsense. So all like trolls. I love Twitter. Twitter's probably my favorite. I block and mute anyone who just tries to harass me. And the interesting thing is, I'm 75% of who I really, really am. I don't know. I always talk about this to Nana. I don't give 100% because I feel like if I give 100%, I don't know if the world is ready. But there are some amazing Black women who use social media and they're 100%. Well, I hope they're really authentic, and they are just saying stuff, and I'm like, whoa, sis! But it's so freeing for me because quite often in society, Black women, we're not allowed to just be like, we can't just.
Yes.
It's just, for me, I find that social media is just such a good way of allowing us to be ourselves. But I have to be relatively guarded because of the business that I'm in. But I'm close. One day when I make my first million, I'll be 100% myself and then forget everybody else.
Yeah. No, for me, I feel like the internet holds so many possibilities, especially for those of us who, you know, in our societies, it's hard for us to be who we truly are, you know, and especially if you've got any sort of identity that is in some way, shape, or form marginalized, right? You can construct an online persona that's really who you are on the inside and be that person online and form community with people who identify with you, who support you, who love you, who encourage you, who give you feedback. Whereas in your real life, if you were to actually, in a sense, live what you saw as your true identity and expression, you could be attracting a lot of critique from your family, from your church, from your organization. And so we can't also pretend that there are not consequences for people when they try to be who they are in real life. You know, I found it interesting, Ronke, that you said you think you're about 75% who you are. I would say 90%.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm about 90%, but I'm also quite privileged, right? Because I work for a feminist organization. And so I don't have a fear that my employers are going to say, oh my God, you were talking about sex. You shouldn't. Because I'll be like, that's anti-feminist, you know, because that's an ideology by which we live, which gives me space to sort of challenge things that are basically normative, right? But if I worked in a bank, for example, I wouldn't be able to do that. I met up with somebody set me up on a date with this person. And one of the things that she said was like, she actually was wearing a wig because in the bank, she cannot actually go to the bank with her short, natural hair. And I was like, oh exactly. You know, like she literally cannot be herself. Yes. So can you imagine that can't come on a show like this and have the kind of conversation that we're having, but they can have an online persona, you know, write for adventures for 2-3 years, have conversations with people, really be themselves online, but they can't be themselves in real life. And for me, these are the kind of possibilities that the internet gives us. And of course, there's the downside that you mentioned, the trolling, the abuse, you know, the harassment. I mean, it's all there.
It's horrible.
And then with dating, all the like weirdos and the people who like send you, you know, pictures of their unmentionables and stuff like that. I mean, it seems like I'm a professional lurker on the internet. I'm not active on any platform. I read what other people say and then I just sort of keep it pushing. And I've never met anyone on the internet. But I feel like one of the things people use that sort of social online community for is love. But there's this stigma about saying you met someone on the internet. Like, Ronke, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think you could say, oh, I met this friend on Twitter, or I got this business contact from Instagram, but to say you met someone, you have a romantic or sexual relationship with someone you met online is like gasp. Like, people are like,
yeah, do you know what? And I think it comes down to culturally. I think it comes down to cultures. So I have a friend who is from Sweden, and in Sweden there is no taboo to meeting a loved one online. So she met her husband, and it's actually like it's a thing now because of the way that society, the Scandinavian society, is shaped. The real way to meet someone is online, and it's become so normal. It's just the same as going to a bar. It's just nothing. I think coming from a Nigerian, West African background, we also have the religiosity and we also have the respect for our elders. So for us here in the diaspora, you know, most things are already private anyway. So regardless of how you meet your partner, you just don't really talk about how you don't talk about it unless it's like, it was my auntie or a cousin. You don't even talk about when you get pregnant. Like, I know from my Nigerian community, you literally announce a pregnancy by like, you go to a party and the bump is there. So there's so many hidden things already in our community. I'm speaking specifically from the Nigerian diaspora, that when you now to start talking about the internet and online dating, that's far too removed from traditionally kind of meeting a boy at church or meeting a guy through an auntie. So I think there is that shame. It's changing now though, slowly, but I think there's a lot of, and we've got to remember there's a lot of negative connotations to meeting people online, because people assume automatically when you use certain apps, you're going to meet people for a one night stand.
yeah.
And that's, I always argued, again, the internet is purely a reflection of the real world. So one night stands are nothing new. You can we could go to a bar or a club tonight and we could meet someone and it's, you know what I mean? But just the internet and certain apps make it just so much easier. And so I don't know, I'm not quite sure what the human rationale is as to why you can't get that it's just a screen. It's just, I don't know. But I think there is a shame. And also, I guess there's a shame behind this. Is there something wrong with us if we have to use a computer to develop a human relationship? I think there is probably that little bit of shame there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really, really good point. But Nana, do you have any experiences to share? Any thoughts about this particular matter?
I have thoughts and I have experiences. So let me share my thoughts first. And I just want to pick up on the points like that Ronke was saying about, is there a sense of shame that people have about, oh, I have to go online to meet people? I mean, I think of that fact around most people actually having relationships with people they meet through work or in their workplace, right? It's very logical. You spend so much of your time there, that's how you meet people. I think in the same way, it is in this day and age logical to meet people online because we are all spending so much time online, right? Absolutely. So it's just become another way of interacting with the world. Yeah. And then in terms of my own dating of online dating, my experiences go way back. I remember this was like well over 10 years ago. I signed up to Match.com, which is an online dating platform. And I said to myself that based on my dating experiences, I was going to write a book about how to date and marry somebody on the internet. So I decided to do like research and make it like really intense. So I remember that particular week where I went on a date every single day of the night.
Whoa.
Yes. And just to give like additional context, at the time I lived in the UK. And so when I created my profile, I said that I only wanted to date Black men.
Okay.
It was a challenge, my dear. It was a challenge.
Tough, right?
You don't say.
And I have to say, that experience has always made me feel so sorry for my Black sisters in the diaspora. Hey, it was hard to find attractive, eligible Black men that
is attractive.
With. I struggled. Seriously, I struggled. And I think it's because Black men are so in demand in the diaspora that most of them don't need to go on dating apps, right? And the other thing that's for me sort of reinforced that sort of notion I have is a couple of years ago, a very good friend of mine who's a professional, like doing so well, she wanted to find a partner. And she felt like she hadn't had much luck on Match and any of these dating sites, right? Mm-hmm. She decided to actually sign up with a professional matchmaking service.
Wow.
And yes. And one of her requirements was she wanted to date a Black man. And the company said, I'm really sorry, we can't put you on our books. This was a company where she was going to pay them a lot of money because we never put Black men on our books. And when we do, they get taken up like this. They actually refused to take this woman's money because they said they can't find her a Black man.
She was going to mess up their success rates. They were like, nah, it's okay. You know that we can't handle this.
You know? And so going back to the time that I was on Match, it was a lot of the, funny enough, in spite of saying that I only wanted to date Black men, the majority of people who were reaching out to me and sending me messages were white men.
Yeah, so I was going to say.
I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out on a date with a couple of these guys, you know? And it was fine. There was one particular guy who we got on. We went on a couple of dates over a couple of weeks and then it fizzled out. So that didn't work out. But I've also met people through adventures, actually.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm also the one who responds to the emails. So I've had, you know, one long distance open relationship with somebody that I met on adventures. And like, even though, for example, we're no longer together, we're planning to hang out this Christmas when they come to Ghana. I've also had like a 3-month relationship with somebody I met, like, who started communicating with me through the Adventures email. So there are at least 2 relationships I've had because of Adventures.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. But there was an interesting point I wanted to pick up on, Nana, is that the fact that the Black men online in particular, or I guess in the world, but in online were the hot commodities, but that's because they were open to everything, right? They didn't have that specific, I only date Black women. Sure. I only date XYZ. Whereas I do find, and again, I think that's part of the taboo, we Black women, we tend to we really are very loyal to our own. And that's where the struggle must come, no?
We must stop.
We must
stop.
Yeah. Nobody's loyal to Black women. Why are we trying to be loyal?
Thing, right? Yeah, and this is it. This is the thing. This is why I find it a bit, and especially online. We're talking about online. We create so many amazing spaces, and even online, I've found, like, when there's this whole narrative about Black women not being supportive, I found online that's complete untruth. Like, it's not true, because actually Black women are just the most supportive to each other, because literally, like you said, nobody's loyal to us. We have to be loyal to each other, and we have to have each other's back. So when, for example, if we do find ourselves in like an online PR crisis or something, I usually find Black women surround and protect each other, and look after each other. When it comes to, you know, dating stories, we share and, like, you know, we help each other and kind of get through things. We're the only ones that are loyal to each other. So you're right, we have to stop being so loyal. Do we have to stop being so loyal? It's a difficult one. Do we have to stop being so loyal to our brothers?
I have an interesting perspective of this. I've swam in the vanilla pool before, so I have a very interesting perspective on this. And while I was in a serious relationship with someone who wasn't Black for years, and one of the things I realized in that relationship number one, to be in that relationship was a huge existential crisis for me because I didn't want to be with somebody who wasn't Black. I only dated Black men. I only wanted a Black man. And then here comes this guy, and he's perfect, but he's in the wrong skin. And I tried and tried and tried and tried, and eventually it was just like, so I'm in this relationship that I already have all this angst and sort of shame about. But one of the things that was really interesting to me were the reactions that I got from Black men. And it's this sense of, well, either you don't love and value yourself, or you have an issue with being Black and you want to have caste or light-skinned children, or you're just some like Jezebel who will date anybody, and now you're fulfilling some guy's fetish because you're Black. And there was always this stuff around it, this sense of ownership. And it's interesting because people always think of like, oh, Black women are haters when men have other women on their arms, Black women. Dude, Black men were so like angsty about this thing. And it just sort of made me realize I probably would never date another white person because that person was just very unique. But it just made me realize that Black women just tend to limit their options. We're only going to date a Black man. We're only loyal to Black men. We want to have a cultural experience for our children that's cohesive, blah, 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 blah. And so there are all these men out in the world that we just automatically strike off because we're waiting for, I call them IBMs, ideal Black man. So we're waiting for the IBM, and then we just like bounce everybody, and the IBM never comes. Or the IBM comes, and because he has so many options, he's juggling 5 of us or 6 of us.
Yes. Yes, that's true too. And do you find as well, because it's going back to kind of the online experience, the fetishization of Black women. So even if we are, this sounds awful, but even if we're we are not the least desirable in reality, I don't think, I would not say, but online, that tends to be but then we find that there's this fetish kind of movement where they want us, but only because they want to sample or taste our Black fruit and then discard. I don't know. Ooh, it just sounds awful when I think about it. But there's that as well. I think that's probably why some people stay clear of talking about being online and even trying to be online, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah, there is a lot of stigma. There's a lot of stigma too about meeting people. So it's like, not only did you meet someone online, but if you're actually going on a date or something, like, oh, you're going to meet someone you just met on the internet, it's not safe, you're putting your life in danger, what if you don't come back? And particularly if it's somebody you met on Tinder, that's the one that kills me, because it's sort of like, if it's Tinder versus Match.com, then it's the worst decision you've ever made on your life, and there'll be so much judgment and censure. It's a little bit of benevolent sexism. It's this sort of sense of like, women need to be protected and women don't know the danger they're in and blah, 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 blah. And so there's this sense of we're protecting you, but then it also leads to, there's a lot of slut shaming, and there's this whole thing of what kind of stupid, desperate woman are you that you would go to coffee with a man you've met on the internet, It's very interesting to me. Now, why do you think Match.com is less shyest than Tinder?
I think Tinder has just gotten a reputation as a hookup site. And a couple of them, I think, there's nothing wrong with a hookup site, clearly. People need to hook up. And so if they find a Tinder convenient for that, why not? So that's number one. And I mean, for me, number two is I also know quite a few people who are in long-lasting relationships with people they met on Tinder. So I think Tinder, like other dating sites, you make of it what you want to make of it.
Exactly.
I mean, I have actually been recommending Tinder to people without much experience of it. And then a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I was like, I can't keep talking to people about Tinder. And now that I'm single, let me go and experience Tinder for myself. So I signed up, and it was quite funny because I had like 2 guys WhatsApp me and say, were you the one I saw on Tinder? I'm like, yeah,
Oh my goodness. That is hilarious and really awkward, but really hilarious.
But I mean, the only thing for me was, I don't know. I think like all sorts of dating sites, it's so much work. I have deactivated my profile just because it's so much work. Because I'm like, scrolling through, no. And then sometimes I'm trying to go back to look at somebody, and then I've accepted somebody by mistake, and I'm like, no, I need to unmatch. This is not the right person. It's just too much work for me. And I think this is my challenge personally, right? With like a lot of dating sites and dating apps. It is so much work. I wish there would be like, I don't know, I like the idea of a matchmaking service or an app where it's more tailored, you know? Yeah. So somebody's almost like doing some pre-selection for you, removing people, picking people who are physically your type, intellectually your type, similar ideology, you know, and those are the only people you see.
Yeah.
I think that exists, no? Or maybe I'm wrong. I thought like, is it Bumble? One of them is, or eHarmony. No, eHarmony isn't an app, is it? It's a website. But there's something that's really good at like getting specifically what it is or who it is, your type. Might be eHarmony, but they're a website. But what I found, really interesting, you're saying that. What I found is, regardless of the dating apps or sites, when a guy wants to shoot their shot, they'll find a way. So, for example, LinkedIn, like I love LinkedIn, and I've had men, you know.
Oh my God! Of LinkedIn.
I found it, no, and you know what? It's always I'm laughing. It's always at the wrong time that these. Well, I was going to say it's not always at the wrong time, but but because of the way I perceive LinkedIn, I don't think of it in that way. So even if it was the right time, so even if I were single at the time that they approached me, I wouldn't even think of, but these guys will come in and you could just sense by the way they're asking questions, it's not a business related, or they want to meet for a coffee or, you know, drink, and you're thinking, there's no, like, you're not going to be a client, and then it doesn't take long to realize they're actually coming on. And so some guys know how to use certain platforms in a way that gets them what they want. And they must use it successfully, because if they have the audacity to use something like LinkedIn, it must work quite well for them.
Wow. That's hard.
Yeah, it's happened to me quite a few times. And what's creeping me out is even the guys who you meet at networking events who you add on LinkedIn. So you've met them physically in person, have a business conversation, then you add them as a professional, and then they get over familiar. And then the next time you see them at a business event, the familiarity it's just, I don't know what that is. Is that part of their inability to like be aware of appropriate behavior and boundaries? Or are they using the excuse that because they're following your progress on LinkedIn or possibly Facebook, that they think that they know things about you, that they can just, it makes them easy. Yeah, there's ways. So if you wanted to use something like LinkedIn as a dating app, maybe.
Oh, wow. Wow. About that.
It's happened a few times. I should write about it.
Wow, that's intense. Okay, we could talk about this forever, but we're trying to keep these things at a certain time, certain thing. So anyways, actually, guys, if you think that these episodes are too short or too long, let us know. Would love the feedback. But I would love to wrap this up with just, I don't know, this thing cracks me up with this question about the legitimacy of online relationships. Mm-hmm. So if you had a grandmother, like nice conservative African grandmother, and you had met your husband, and you brought him home to meet your grandmother, and you had met him on Tinder, the grandmother said, "Where did you meet this young man?" Would you say it? Would you come clean about Tinder, or you would?
Wouldn't know what it was, so she would be like, Tinder, like she'd be like, "Oh, cool. Is that a company?" I'm like, "Yes, mum, it's a company." Tinder's a company. She wouldn't get it, so I'd have to literally describe. By the time I finish describing what it is, it would just be worth just saying, "Oh, we met at a restaurant," which would not be, too far from the truth, because the first date would have been a restaurant or a cafe. So it's better not. The older generation wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get it. Maybe mum, my actual, like, the grandparents wouldn't get it, but mum and dad would probably get it. Yeah. You know what? It's interesting you ask that question, because I think my mum, it would be fine with it now, because she's getting it, she's understanding. If it was 10 or 15 years ago, when the internet started, getting pop, she would have been like, no. But now she's understanding, also because she's lived in this country for so long and she sees how tough it can be for Black women. She's just like, whatever the best means possible, however you can find that man, honestly. She's really changed, actually. I'm proud of her.
Nana, would you tell your grandmother that you met him on Tinder and then explain what it was, or you would say you met him at church or something?
I think my grandmother would be so happy that she wouldn't even care whether I picked the guy from here and then. I think my family have gotten to that point. It's so funny. Both my mom and my dad sent me the same meme on WhatsApp, which said something along the lines of "Stop looking for Mr. Right, just drag him from the left."
Oh, this WhatsApp. See, we didn't even talk about WhatsApp. What that does to the relationship.
That's terrible. Oh, I hear women complaining all the time about guys, particularly guys from India, just randomly hitting them up and sending them dick pics and stuff. I find that so fascinating.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yes. We did not talk about WhatsApp was probably the worst one of all of them.
See? We've left it out.
That's probably the worst one of all of them. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for joining us, Ronke and Nana as well. Thanks for my road dog on this thing. We're going to wrap this up, but I have a question for the audience. If you guys were looking for love, would you go online? Do you think that's an option? Or do you think, like, as generally African or African descended people, we date people that we meet? What do you think? Is online dating or even just hooking up with people you met online, is that a thing that we do and something that you would do? So let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Ronke. Bye,
Thank
Nana.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.